So I'm thrilled to be in the studio, joined again by Andy Z. Andy, welcome back.
I'm glad to be back, and I just want to say how important this show is, particularly in a time like this.
And exactly the time like this is what we're going to get into. So Refuse Fascism has called for a national day of protest on July 4th under the slogan, "In the name of humanity, we declare our independence from Trump's fascist America. The Trump fascist regime must go now." In D.C., in L.A., across the country on July 4th, and in D.C., in the days leading up to July 4th, there are several days of action called, but all building towards a march to the White House in D.C. on July 4th for what the website says will be the biggest chant heard around the world: Trump must go now. So on July 4th, rather than a barbecue, rather than a day at the beach with family, why should people be in the streets in protest?
Well, the short answer is because we're at a very pivotal point, a point where things could go one way or the other. There was, somewhere almost 5 million people were out in the streets on the 14th of June. What happens with that? How does that get built on? Because we're in a moment when history is moving very, very fast. Very fast. Big changes happen by the day. And whether or not we seize this time, this holiday, is going to really matter for the future. That's what's at stake here. Independence Day, that's July 4th, Independence Day. The U.S. colonies declared independence from the sovereign king of England. But let's look at what a fascist regime is. Okay? Trump just unilaterally, without seeking approval from Congress, in violation of international law, just bombed a sovereign country, a country that's an independent country in Iran. Whatever the situation is with Iran, it's a reactionary Islamic fundamentalist regime. We on this show and in our movement stand with the people of Iran, and especially the women of Iran, in standing up to that regime. But the U.S. and their client attack dog Israel had no right to go after this, and now he's strutting around like a peacock, But it's very, very ominous. There's tremendous cost in what he did, and however temporarily there may be a ceasefire right now, this is going to redound back on the people of the world in the Mideast. It's a game-changing thing, and it's not a good thing. He's sending the military into cities in this country to suppress dissent. He's sending Gestapo-like agents who are disguised into cities, grabbing people up off the streets. We're going to get into this. So it really matters right now whether or not the strength that we saw in the streets on the 14th of June is maximized every week, and especially on a holiday like this, people need to be out. I want to get into this further as we go along, but the stakes couldn't be higher.
So then what do you say to people who say, okay, yes, I agree with you. I feel you. I hate it. It's fascism. I agree. Therefore what?
Therefore, you have to act. You have to have a, first off, when we did this protest on the 14th in Washington, D.C., almost the entire anti-Trump movement was saying, don't do this, don't do this. And one of our members of the Refuse Fascism chapter in Washington, D.C., from a country in Central America, he got like 40 messages that day that said, don't do this, don't do this. He said, you may not feel what's happening to people's lives, but I feel it. I'm going out. And maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people came out. And I think a lot of us have watched this video of a 48-year-old gardener at IHOP, of all places, and these ICE people roll down the street, with ski masks on in the sweltering heat, grab this man up, throw him to the ground, punch him in the face. This is a guy who's been here for 3 decades, 3 sons, all in the U.S. military. Now, we have our criticism of the U.S. military, but just get a sense of what kind of people are being taken down by this regime. But this is just the icing on the cake. See, one of the things about fascism and how it comes into being is they create an enemy and they target it first. It's a very famous quote from Pastor Niemöller, who went along with the fascism in Germany. Is the head of a very large church. You know, and he had a poem. First they came for the communists and I wasn't a communist and I didn't speak up. Then they came for the socialists and then they came for the Jews and I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't speak up. On down the line to the point where they came for me and there was no one left to speak up. Well, first they're coming for the immigrants. Stand aside from that and you're on the way to a living hell for the people of this country and the people of the world. There's that cost. You're a trans person, suddenly you don't exist anymore. This is serious business. I said I wanted to make, or maybe I didn't say it, but I wanted to make 2 points about this. So one, there's a question of why should people come out? Because you care about what's happening to humanity here and around the world. You care about the people in Iran. You care about the people in Gaza. And you look at the complicity and the direction and now the actual active involvement of your government dropping 12 of the most powerful weapons that exist outside of nuclear weapons? Come on, people, this is some serious business. But here's the other side of that. I said in the beginning, we're at a pivotal point. Well, let's just think about it this way. You're in a basketball game, a football game, soccer game, known as football elsewhere. And somehow the team, it's the playoffs, it's a lot at stake. So you come out in the first quarter and this team is playing hard. They're coming at you from all directions, like the Trump regime came right at the people in all directions. Now it's the end of the first quarter and you are down by a lot of points. Basketball, you're down 40-10. So you regroup. You sat out the first quarter and you come out the way the people came out on June 14th, 5 million people, and you got back in the game. Well, what does the other team do now? They regroup and they come at you even harder and they switch things up. Now you got a situation where Trump just waged this war and all kinds of people who should be opposing the regime are saying, well, as the former Secretary of State said something like, Trump made a mistake doing this, but I hope he succeeds. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? And the Democratic Party leadership always behind this. And so here we are, 5 million people in the street, even if it was only 3 million, but whatever it was, there were millions of people out in the country. Now what? We have to stop this. And here on July 4th, there's an opportunity to do that. There's a lot of people in Refuse Fascism who believe deeply in the principles of this country, such as they understand them. There's people like myself and Sansara Taylor who see that the problems we face are exactly and precisely in the system we live under, including the political system, is not have any of the kind of big arms to change the world in the interests of humanity, the way the world that we're fighting for has, and the Constitution for the new socialist republic written by Bob Avakian. But we're all coming together, and we are saying on July 4th that in the name of humanity, we are going to declare our independence from a Trump fascist America. We agree on that. We don't want to be part of a Trump fascist America, but that means we have to do something. And it's not we refuse fascism. It's we, the 5 million people who stood up. And there should be all kinds of protests around all kinds of things, but all with a single objective. And what it means to say, and it's a metaphor, okay? The biggest chant ever is that, and we should get into this, the biggest chant ever means that the people of this country, the decent people of this country, are going to stand up and we are going to get on the road to continual, sustained struggle to make it impossible for this regime to carry out their fascist program and to demand that Trump must go now. So we should get further into this because it matters.
So this is where I want to go because, okay, the analogy of a basketball game is a good one, except now in the version of our game, the opposing team has kidnapped the referee. Instead of playing by the rules, they're beating the shit out of our players. So we can't just sort of keep playing the game as if the same old rules apply. We have to call the people out of the stands. So what does it mean to make this demand that the Trump regime must go now is not an aspiration? What does it mean to make that real?
Well, I think you have to go at this also from the sense of what is it we're facing, and then what's it going to take. What we're facing is fascism. Fascism is a different form of rule. It's a form of rule that's openly, blatantly terroristic, actually, the use of force. This is terrorism that's going on in the communities. That's why I referred to that gardener. And this is multiplied, as I said, by 3,000 people a week. This is huge. And absolutely in violation of the rule of law. That's your point about capturing the referee. And there's no checks on this anymore. Fascism has momentum, which means it continually moves. Trump doesn't sit still. He doesn't have any regard for the truth. He doesn't have any regard for anything other than advancing this fascist agenda of white supremacy, male supremacy, hatred of foreigners, all to cement an America first, which really means going back to an America pre-Civil War. In the form that it would take today in modern day. It wouldn't literally be chattel slavery, but it would be objectively that kind of rule that existed in the Confederacy and actually throughout the country. So we have to get hold of this, because it has direction, which is that we are not that far away from a situation where this form of rule does get codified. What does that mean? It means it gets established, not just by habit, the way the Supreme Court is doing, where you accept these changes drip by drip by drip, and then all of a sudden the water is boiling and you're a cooked frog or a cooked chicken, whatever it is. That's what's happening. It has direction to get to a place where it would become extremely difficult under very, very suppressed and repressive conditions to be able to stop it. That's what it means. It has directions. That's what it means when Refuse Fascism says it can become too late. And we are closer to becoming too late than most people are even paying attention to. But here's the thing. 5 million people came out. Yeah. They said they don't want to live under this. What are we going to do about this? Well, we have to have a different kind of struggle, which I'll get into next if you would like to go there. Yeah. But I think that's important, that there is a way to stop this. And so we should talk about what it is and what it isn't and what's at stake.
Yeah. Why don't you go there? Because I think people are hungry to hear that.
Okay. Well, this struggle has to continue. It has to pick up the pace. People say, well, we should prepare for the long haul. I don't know what you're talking about when you say that, when you're facing fascist momentum. Mm. Because I think a lot of people who say the long haul are thinking it's only 2 years till the midterm elections. I'm going to tell you now, and I bet a lot of money on it, but that 2027 is too late to have a new Congress. Is that right? 2027?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. That's what it would be. That's a long way away. I feel, and I think any objective look at how fast this regime is moving shows that they can actually lock down society before then. We need to create a situation where there is continual protest, more and more people. We need to create the kind of political crisis where the regime can't carry out its program. That is what you can see in microcosm in Los Angeles, the way people tried to stop and are still trying to stop ICE. ICE goes someplace and people race out. The police here are complaining that they don't know if it's people impersonating ICE or ICE, and it's impeding police work and all this kind of stuff. So this is a good thing that people are getting out there in opposition to ICE, but it has to grow. It has to grow, and it has to have the demand that this whole program is stopped, defeated, and that Trump is gone. If it doesn't have that, he's going to keep moving. They're going to fight here. They're going to fight there. They're going to go after, they'll let up in one city and go after another city. They'll go after immigrants. Now they're going to go after the gang warfare in Chicago or whatever else. You have to understand this is what is actually happening. And there is a way to defeat it. The way to defeat it is for massive protests that directly and targets the regime politically, that says, we do not accept your fascist America. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. And on the 4th of July, we're going to declare our independence from that fascist America. We can declare it all we want, but if we don't back it up with millions of people getting involved, in a continual way. Maybe there won't be millions out on the 4th of July, but there need to be tens of thousands looking forward to a day after day protest and to the 17th, which is being put forward by Indivisible and other organizations. In fact, the organization that first called this before Indivisible, a day honoring John Lewis's statement, "Go make some good trouble." So that's what we have to do. We have to make good trouble. Mm-hmm. And the good trouble has to be massive, nonviolent protests that impedes their ability to do this, including on the big stage, politically. That's why we're doing 4 days in Washington, D.C. There can be no celebration of the 4th of July when what you're going to be celebrating this year is the establishment of a fascist America. It was great the day after to say Trump's parade was really pitiful. I was in Washington at that time. It was pitiful. It was a major egg on the face defeat for him. And the people's side had 5 million people in it. But I tell you something, Trump has something you don't have. He's president.
Yeah.
He has both houses of Congress. He has the Supreme Court. He has most of the state houses in the country. He has the Army, ICE, the Secret Service, the FBI. He has state power. That counts for something. But the people actually have the power to stop this, but they don't really know it. And we should feel good when we come out the way we did after the 14th, but feeling good is not winning the game. Go back to the question you asked. So now it's the third quarter. We got back in the game. Now's the time to accelerate. Whatever was working for us and whatever was impeding the opposition, we have to actually double down on it, triple down on it. That's what he does. And he's doing it because for both sides require a great deal of audacity. We have to really rise to this moment. This is not a normal situation. This is the cementing into place of a different form of rule with catastrophic implications for humanity. And that's what people need to understand. They need to act now. And they need to be out there on the 4th of July. They need to be out there every time these people show their faces and try to do something, whether it's a town hall meeting or a meeting of Congress or a decision at the Supreme Court. You need to be there in massive numbers and impede their ability to carry this out, getting to the point through this summer and into the early fall where they can no longer govern. They're completely discredited, and then there becomes the means to be able to remove him from office.
Yeah, I think the only thing I want to add is the way that what you're describing, that vision, how that can impact and crack apart the institutions of this system. And you see the cracks right now, but the question is, are they going to be forced only to respond to the fascists, which is right now setting the terms and on the offense, or are they going to respond to a force of the people ourselves going on the offense? Exactly how you're describing with this demand and insisting that that be made real.
I think it's very critical that we understand that the people do have the power to sharpen up those divisions in the institutions, to have some people who are acting with timidity and no conscience at all, to act with a conscience. That's on us. It starts at the bottom. It starts from the bottom up in this case right now, because that's the kind of society we're in. And that needs to accelerate in a variety of creative ways with people with all different kinds of views joining in a single struggle to drive out this regime, to not let them consolidate fascism. And that's a positive message.
Yeah.
So that's my last point. I know this is very positive. Exactly what the shape of a new world would look like. But I'll tell you this, if we defeat this regime and they're driven from power, a lot of things are going to become possible. Here on the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, we see the possibility, might be a long shot, but the possibility of a radically different world. A revolution to bring about a radically new society. Other people see other solutions, and things will open up, and there'll be a new process that sets into motion where the people have initiative. That initiative can be suffocated and choked off by fascism. So this is not just a negative struggle, it's a positive struggle, and the struggle to defeat this regime is the hope that humanity has right now, which is why that slogan, "In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America," is so important. And there's, I would say, hundreds of millions of people around the world rooting for us. And you have to keep them in mind when you make that sacrifice of what you're going to do on the 4th of July, to be in the streets of Washington, D.C., rather than at the Maryland shore this year.
Well, righteous on that. Go to refusefascism.org. People can sign up to be in DC to find out protests happening across the country. And if you really can't get to DC and you're far away, organize your own protest with these slogans and demand. Andy, I'm so glad you're here in studio, and I'm so glad we're in this fight for humanity. So thank you.
Well, it's really great to be with you and to be with Sansara. So, people, let's go. It's on all of us right now.
Go now! Trump must go now! Trump must go now!